So how do you find out which techniques specifically work for specific autistic individuals? Well, getting to know them as individuals. Create an environment where they feel comfortable expressing themselves, verbally or otherwise. I now need to talk about something which may make a couple of people feel a little bit uncomfortable, but I have a duty to be honest with my audiences, and it's about applied behavioural analysis, or ABA. It's gaining popularity and is seen in some countries, like America, for example, as the standard treatment for autism, but part of me being honest with you involves me telling you exactly how deeply unpopular ABA is among the autistic adults who have been put through it themselves. There are plenty of stories out there from autistic adults who tell the stories of being trapped in a room with a psychologist who wants them to change everything about themselves and won't let them express themselves in the way that they want, and they're not allowed to say, I feel uncomfortable with that, because, nope, you're not supposed to feel uncomfortable, you're supposed to do this. And they're not allowed to object, otherwise that's defiant behaviour and so on. And I am very aware that it is practiced differently depending on the practitioner, and obviously some better than others. But I've read at least one academic study where ABA has a 45% rate of post-traumatic stress disorder among the children who are put through it. I'm not personally an ABA professional. I'm an educator, an autistic educator who teaches autistic students. And from my teacher's perspective, there are two things that I find quite deeply wrong with the way some people choose to practice ABA. Number one is child protection. And there are, again, plenty of stories out there of children who are placed in a room and confronted by an adult who wants them to do things that they're quite uncomfortable with, and they're told by all the adults around them that this is the thing that they must do. And this is another picture I made for Autistic Not Weird to highlight the danger of that. If your autistic child's therapist uses methods which demand unquestioning obedience and compliance, find another therapist. The biggest lesson the autistic child learns is that they must always do whatever an adult tells them, no matter how unnatural and how uncomfortable it feels. If ABA must happen, there must always be an opportunity for the child to say no, or I feel uncomfortable, or I've had enough. Because if that opportunity is not there, then the child is never going to feel safe in that kind of therapy. And, well, think about it. The child would be absolutely right to not feel safe in that kind of environment. Because, and I won't go into too much detail because I'm sure you can fill in the blanks yourself, but the next adult who comes along and tries to make them do something they're not comfortable with might not be trying to teach them anything. But if they've been taught through various therapies that they must do what this adult tells them if they feel uncomfortable, then disastrous things can happen, I'm afraid. And the second thing that, as a teacher, I don't particularly like about the way ABA is often practiced is what is seen as the success criteria. Now, the success criteria of any kind of intervention, as it's often called, really should be to enable a child to communicate their needs, to get a child to be able to say things like, Mummy, I feel ill. Basically communicating if something is wrong so that the people around them can understand them. That should be the main priority for any kind of autism intervention. Unfortunately, I've heard quite a lot of stories of people who are placed in a room with a practitioner whose only success criteria is to get them to look them in the face, or stop flapping your hands, or sit still. No, we need to have better reasons for that. If you're going to change a child's behaviour, there needs to be a good reason for it. One extra thing that must be said about self-advocacy, it also means if an autistic child says no or I feel uncomfortable, please, please, please respect their wishes. And this goes back to a couple of things that I said about ABA and various other therapies, I imagine, on the previous slide. And this also includes physical contact. There are plenty of stories of, There are plenty of stories of children who are in some kind of therapy session and the therapist physically stops them doing things. And not in a playful physical intervention way, but, grab their hand to stop them from flapping it, or grab their chin to point it towards them. And when you do that, you're not teaching the child to stop flapping, you're not teaching the child to look at you, you're teaching the child that adults get to decide what happens to their body. And it has potentially disastrous consequences. I'd like to finish with a few words about the opportunity that India has, because people come to me from all over the world and say, Chris, you are so lucky to live in Britain where everyone knows everything about autism. No, we don't. It is true that countries like Britain and Australia, and, well, to some extent the United States, have made huge leaps forward in terms of autism awareness and understanding. But that is built on the back of 50 years, at least 50 years, of getting it wrong. Decades and decades of damaging autistic people because we didn't know any better, and it's only just now that we're starting to get it right. Now, I am told by a number of people that India is very early in its autism awareness journey, but with that, I see an enormous opportunity there. And the opportunity there is the fact that we have already made the mistakes for you. India can be one of those countries that just gets it right first time. You don't need to go through the 50 years of mistakes that we did. So, yeah, I'd like to thank you all once again for coming and listening. And if this talk helps just one autistic child, then honestly, I'll be pretty disappointed because I was kind of hoping for more than that. But thank you very much.